Okay, so let's quickly go through what we did so far. So initially, we created a GitHub project. Then we cloned it into our local system, right? There we ran a command with npx. Basically, this command, right? So what this command did was this command actually created two folders and some more files like git ignore and readme files were there. So when we run this command, it brings a backend and a front end, which has basically React, Node.js, Express, all those templates, boilerplate. Next, what we did is we updated our env variables, and then we simply ran our project with npm run dev, and it was running perfectly. Next step was to deploy this in render. So what we did is we wanted to keep a .env file of the front end, but not of the backend. So we replaced this .env and .env slash star with backend slash .env, so that only this is ignored in our git ignore file, right? Next, what we did is, okay, once the local setup was running perfectly, then we started deploying it in render. So in render, we created a new web service where basically we imported our GitHub project, and we have to do three things there. First was we have to give a build command, which was cd frontend, go to frontend, install all the dependency and build that project, which will create a dist. Second was go to backend and install all the dependency, right? Finally, start command is go to backend and run npm start. Okay, finally, we have to update all the env variables in the render, and we say, okay, run, and that will basically give you one URL which you will be able to reference, right? After that, we did a small task, which was locating your being zero in a navbar and changing it to your own name. And you have to do the same process once again, push it to GitHub, and it will automatically get deployed to render, right? So far, we have a render. Okay. So for we have a app which is up and running. It gets down if we don't use it, but up to here we are done. Okay. So next part, we will be looking at two things, which is the basic things of React, which you must know in order to write code in React. Okay. And second is what after learning this, the UI which we see in this URL project. Uh, Basically, I've sold you in the morning. So the web app which you see where we can sort in the, yeah, this is the one which I deployed right now. What we have to build, it has a page where you can sort in the URL, where you can see your profile page. So those pages will be building second. So there are two parts. One is where we'll be basically learning these all things. And second, we will be basically implementing that for our web application. Okay. So let's go one by one. There is an article in Mentopic, so I'll take you through that. Okay. So as we all know, or if we don't know, React is basically a single page application. So if you go through one page to another page, basically it will change the URL. If URL change, page should reload, right? But that doesn't happen, Like if I try to open this project, you keep an eye on this reload button. If I go to the another page, see URL is changing, right? But do you see this reloading? No. But if I refresh this page, you see this reloading, right? But when I move from page to page, it's actually not reloading anything, right? So it's a single page application where only you will bring the new component, you'll take down the already existing component. So what React does is React pages are built with the components. You can write the component can be reused at different places. You can focus on like if you want to change only one part of the page, you can make that part as a component and you can change only that component. That is called a single page application, right? So let's get back to this. So it's a single page application, and if you want to create a React app, there is a tool Wit called as Wit. If you run this npm create wit at the rate latest, it is going to create a React project. For now, we don't need it because with another command which we ran in morning, we already have a React project in picture, right? So, but if you have to create a separately only React app, you can run this command and it is going to create you a React project, right? So you can read this, but now let's start with a few things which are important in React. First and the foremost, very important thing, which is component in a React. So let's understand what is component. So component is a function in React. I'll write it and show to you. Do you remember like I told you the starting or the main file in the React? What is the name? App.js, right? So right now, let me quickly run my front end. Now our all focus would be only in front end, okay? I'm not going to run my complete application. I'll only run the front end. So right now, let's let me go back to that place. Yeah, so this is the project we are looking into. And here I'll go to front end. How to run front end? It's very easy to identify in front end. If you go to package.json, you'll see the scripts. There are many scripts. If you have to build it, you need to run npm run build. If you want to run it, you need to write npm run dev. Right? You can write your own script over here, which will also work fine. Okay. So now only to run front end, I should write npm run dev. Okay, I need to run with sudo. And you see it's up and running in localhost 5174. So I'll just copy this. Let's go back to the browser. And it's running. Right? Perfect. But right now we only have a front end. Okay. Here in this boilerplate, authentication is only implemented, like Google login is implemented. I'll take you through it once we are done with React, right? But if we need some data, if we need a backend, like if we need some data, like if we want to log in, we want to store the user details, those all things, we'll need a database, we'll need a backend for that. Am I right? So far, currently, what we will be doing is we'll make this change. You also do with me. Okay. In front end, there is .env file. It says with bjdenv is production. Change it to development. And we will send our all requests to one deployed project, which is over here. This one. I have already created the whole project. This is deployed. So we'll be using the backend of this. How we will be using it, you just come here and change this proxy to this URL. So let me give you this so that you can just use it. So what you have to do is update the front end .env to this, which will help us to make API calls to this. Later, we will write our own backend. Right? So you will have access to this Google Doc, right? You replaced it. Once you replaced it, stop the front end and run it once again. Right. So once we replace it and run it, here let's try to log in. And 51743. 5174. Okay, we need to whitelist this. Yeah, so now after changing the env variable of the front end, which are these two variables, I'm saying that the env now is development and the proxy where my front end will send all the request will be this. This backend is already running in a server, and to access that, this is the URL, right? So I just showed you how to log in. Like, let me log out and log in once again. This is the message I'm getting without making any change. This is something which is already built for you, right? Now, the first step here is to learn about JSX and the component. So let me make a simple component for you and help you to understand you through it. Okay, so let's focus on this, which is called as JSX, which is JavaScript XML. JSX stands for JavaScript XML. Okay. And any component should return a JSX. Okay. So let me create one component and show it to you quickly. As you told me correctly, app.js is the file, which is a main file and a starting file, right? So here, right now, if you see, I'll come back to this routes. Don't get confused with this. Right now, I'm just closing it. So you will see this is a function, which I told you in morning, like how we can write a function, normal function. Function, name of the function, curly bracket open, right? And if you want that to be used by some other place, you need to export it. So you have to write export default and the name of the function, right? Similarly, let me create one component. See here in page, I have created one folder user. Inside this, let me create one file called as profile.jsx. Understand this, if it returns only JavaScript, your file name should be .js. If you are returning a UI, which is a component, then the file extension should be .jsx. Now you tell me how to create a function in JavaScript. Function. Name of the function. Right now, let's keep it profile, as it is going to give you the profile. Yeah, this is the function and you need to export it so that other places can use it. So you will have to write export default and profile. Perfect. This should return a JSX. So return. Now let's discuss some rules about the JSX. Okay. So here, these are 3 rules. Must have only one segment. Like you will see fragments over there, like opening, closing tags, right? That is called as one segment. Like if I come back here, this is called as one segment. Like this, there can be different segment, like there is div, there can be one more div, there can be 2 more div, but all of them should be wrapped into one single fragment, and that should be returned. You cannot return 2 fragments or 2 segments. Like I cannot write this over here, it will throw error. But these all things I can wrap into one single fragment. That will be fine. Okay, so this is the first rule, which we can see over here. Must have one parent element, right? Second is we can use class. Like in HTML, we use class, right? But in Java, in React, class is something, there are 2 types of component. One is class component, one is functional component. Functional component is very popular and nowadays no one use class component, but class is a keyword. So we cannot use class with our UI. That is why instead of class, you have to name it class name and you can provide a class. That is second rule. Finally, there are 2 types of tags. One is self-closing and another one is the normal way, which we have seen here. Like instead of writing this, I could also self-close it at one single place. So there are 2 ways to write it. You either self-close it or you split it. These are 3 rules. Now, let's say I want to return a JSX from here. So I'll take one div. Let me take a simple div here. Let's say profile page. So this is a functional component which is returning a UI or a JSX, you can say. This I can use anywhere. I can reuse it. I can use it. So I'll take this component, come to app.jsx, right now you see this screen over here, right? So how it is showing it, let me divide it in terms of components. One is a navbar. This is a navbar, which is a component, self-closing component, okay, which you can see over the top. And there is routes. What this route does, I'll get into that, but think of it as whichever path matches, it only shows that component. It's like here there are some path like slash, then login, right? So here in the path, if there is nothing, it is slash. So it below this, it in routes, it will show only one component which matches. You can think of it like if else condition, whichever matches, that only is shown. So this whole things will get replaced with one single component by matching the path. So here, if this path matches, it will show home page. If this path matches, it will say login page. If the other path matches, then it will show other. So for now, just understand that if we change the URL, then it will change the component here. It will replace here. Okay. So we want to show a profile page. What I'll be doing is I'll go into detail of routers later on, but now just see I'm creating one path which is profile, and here I'll be giving the profile. I imported this over here, and I am saying if the path is profile, you show this component. But there is no routing at this place, this is at the top. That will always be there. Only the conditional path one, it will be replaced with one of the component. So now if I go back here, click on profile. Mm, Profile. Okay, we don't see anything. Let me do one thing. Let me keep it here. Okay, let me see what we have kept here. This is okay. It's coming here. Maybe there was only one line of code and I placed it bottom, so it did not take it. It's just returning nothing. Like you have seen it in Java if you don't write in the same line, right? So anyway, now I'll go to this app.jsx. Let me remove this. Based on the path, it will just show this. Okay. Now let's play with this profile page a bit. I'll go to this component, and how I have separated this is when you actually create a base project, there'll be no components, there'll be no page. This is a logical division which I have created. What I have done is I have created two directory. One is component, one is page. Inside this, both will have components only, but components are something which will be reusable. Pages are something which will be displayed when path changes. Okay, so like if this path change, then the below page is changing, right? Actually, a component is changing. So these will be kept as pages, but in that page, if you are using some reusable things, those will be kept in components, right? So let me create few more components. Let's say how we want to design this profile page. In the profile page, we want these all things. Let's say if I take you मैं Zoom मीटिंग में सुन लेता हूँ, मैं लंच का निकाल रहा हूँ. Yeah, so we will be designing a page which is similar to this. Now this has a avatar, it has a text, it has a text, some text. Am I right? So there'll be multiple things. We'll go one by one. Okay. First thing, let's learn how to make an API call. We need this user's information, right? How we will make a API call. So what we'll be doing is, let me inspect this page. And this is something you all should learn while developing this. I inspected the page, I went to network tab. I'll refresh this page. You will see all the APIs call which is being made. Right? Now, can you look at this and tell me what is the type of this API call? It is get, right? And this is the call where we are making this, right? So let me take this and write down. This is a API which we will be writing later on. Right now it's already deployed. So we are using the deployed one. Uh, yeah. And this is type is get. Look at this and tell me the values which we are getting here. So what I am sending in get, we do not send anything. We only receive the response. So this is your response. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to make this API call from our profile page and get back the response, right? But let's, before making that, we have to learn two things. One is little bit about JavaScript. Okay, so we have already gone through JavaScript, but in this function, think of this function as you are writing a code in, let's say, C++ or Java. When you write a code, you return something from that function, right? Or maybe you don't return. But when you return, you write lot of logic, lot of calculation, processing. After that, you get one result which you return. Am I right? Here also, we can divide it into two parts. One is called as a part where you can write all your JS code. And one is a part where you have to return a JSX, return UI or JSX, you can say. So this function will allow you to write a JavaScript code over here. Okay. But the thing is, what happens is it behaves little differently than a normal JavaScript. Let's say we discussed about constant let and where type of variable. Let's say let name is equal to, I'm writing Kaushik. Okay. And this name, I'll be showing it over here. Now, JSX. In JSX, you can embed HTML and JavaScript both. If you want to add JavaScript, what simple thing you have to do is place a curly bracket, and inside this, you can write a JavaScript. Now, there is a variable, I want to show it over here. So I just placed it, and there will be no issue. If I go to this page, you can see Kaushik printed over here, right? Okay. So far, it's good. But the thing here is, I'll tell you one type of function. In JavaScript, there is a function called as set timeout. What this does is, it takes two things. Let me divide it. It takes two things. One is function and one is a time. So it takes a function. I'm writing that function over here. It's an arrow function, right? This is a function and it takes some something called as time. It will run the function it took first after the completion of this time. Okay. So this is called as callback function, means once something is done, this function will be running. So let me say I updated here my name to, let's say, Vishal. And here I am printing console.log name. Let's say name is updated and I'll print the name. Fine. I ran this. Now let me inspect this page and go to console. You see here name is updated and it prints Vishal. But do you see here? So let me run it once again. After 2 seconds, you got this message. But is it updating? No. But the value has been updated in that name, right? So the issue here is if a normal variable changes, React do not renders that page again. It only renders the page if state of the component changes. Now, what is state? Like you have done a dynamic programming, right? So you'll be able to relate it that every function has a state which changes, right? Here also, this functional component will have some state, and only if it changes, your component is going to re-render. So I should not take this name as a normal type. It should be of type state. Okay. So what I'll be doing is there is hooks. Use state is a hook that we'll be using. So I'll be just writing use state, import this, and let me say the default type of this name is Kaushik, like the default value. Now this is an array. Can we destructure the array? Yes. This array has two values. So if I destructure it, how many variables should I use here? Two variables, right? The first variable here is the value, and the second variable here is a function which will help you to change the value. Okay, so I am calling it as set name. Let's keep it as const. Okay, now let me remove these all things and these all things also. Now, if I go back, I have a name whose default value is Kaushik. If I go back to this page, it's displaying profile page Kaushik, which is well and good. If I want to update it after 2 seconds, what should I do? Set name and pass the new name, Vishal. Now let's go back. It's Kaushik changed to Vishal. Right? Perfect. So you understood that if state change, then only it is going to re-render the application. Use state is something called as hook. Use state is a hook. There are different types of hook we'll study, but use state is one hook. Let's discuss about one more hook, which is called as use effect. Okay. So I'm writing one more hook here, and you can write is before returning, you can write all the JavaScript code. There is no issue. So I'm writing here use effect. This also takes one callback, which I'm going to write here. Basically a function. Okay. And here, let's say I'm writing something console.log, and here I'll be writing print use effect. Let's run this application. You see this getting printed, but it got printed once again after 2 seconds. Can we say every time there is a change in the state, it's getting printed? Yes. Okay. Now, I don't want to run this, let's say, every time. I only want to run it for the first time. So what I'll do is, it takes two things. One is a callback and one is called as dependencies. It says, give me a state variable. Only if that change, I'll run this. Okay. So let's see this time. I'll clear this, refresh this page. You see it got printed once. After the value change, it did not get printed again. Why? Because now the dependency is empty. So when the component first time renders, that time it runs, later or it did not runs. But in this dependency, you can pass the dependencies, like I can pass name. I'll say if name changes, you re-render. So I'll go back here and refresh this page. After 2 seconds, again it printed. So you can run this use effect if some state changes. So use effect, use state, these are hooks which makes functional component easy to write code. Okay, so there are a few more hooks. As we move forward, we'll be discussing it. For now, let's consolidate hooks into only these things. Now tell me, set time is a function. Yeah, utility functions. Now I want to make a API call which will give me a profile details. So tell me, when should I make it? Where should I write it? Should I write it in use effect? Should I write it in set timeout? Should I write it outside over here? I should write it in use effect. Okay. Let's say I will make an API call here. Make an API call here. Should I pass name? If I pass name, what will happen? It will make a call. Yes, it will make once again. Should I remove this also? No. If I remove that, it will call the use effect every time there is change in the function. So I'll just keep it empty so that it runs only for the first time. Good. Great. So like this, we can have many more, not only name, but we can have more use state. Like you can keep 5, 10, 15 based on your requirement. You can keep any number of use states over here. Okay. Now let's learn how we can make a API call. Okay. So for that, there is a package called as Axios. This is the library. Sorry, it's a package which will help you to make an API call. Fine. So let's install this. To install this, there is already a command here. What you have to do is just go back to where your project is running. Okay. I am in front end. I'll just run this command and it will install it. How you will verify it is very simple. Go to package.json, look at the dependencies. Do you see Axios here? Means it is installed. Good. Okay. Now let's make an API call to bring the data. Okay. So I have written an API over here, which is this one. If I just make a call here, think of it. If I just keep it here, does it gives me the data? Yes. Yes. But if I keep it in incognito tab, does it gives data? What does it says? Because this API is protected and only a logged in user can make a request. Okay. So this API takes a token with it, which is a JWT token. We'll discuss in detail when we go to API part, like authentication path. Okay. For now, if I have to make this call, I told you this, whenever we make an network call, that code should be always inside try catch. Am I right? So we are writing one function. Let's say uh, function get profile details, and here simply I'll be saying axios dot get and pass this URL, and it should give me my detail. I also discussed about async await, right? So here I will place a await because I don't want to run the next line of the code before this completes. But if you have to use async, you will also have to use, sorry, if you have to use await, you have to use async with this. So you have to just make this function async. Now the error goes away. So whatever data it will return, I'll just return it from here. Simple function, makes an API call, gives you back the data. So let's call this function over here and print the data which it is returning. Let's see what happens. Perfect. So let me remove this part and go back over here. Refresh the page. It gives some error. It's fine. We can debug it. So we'll go to network tab. We'll see here it says forbidden. Am I right? So it's making a correct API call over here, but it is giving 403, which is forbidden. So maybe the token is not getting passed over there, right? For this, in utility, I have written a function. Sorry, I have created a class called as service. And here I have written mini function, which is delete, put, patch, get base URL, post, and all the things. Okay. It's a class which has many methods. Can we use that method somewhere by creating an object? Yes. So I told you how we can make a request with Axios, but already I have written a class which has this all methods. So this itself uses Axios. So let's not worry about to use Axios. It is this function is internally using Axios. What I'll do is in profile page, let me import this service class. Now, in order to use this, I'll have to create a object. So what I'll say is const service is equal to new service. Perfect. This service I'll replace over here because service has a get function. It will automatically show you also. If I say dot, it shows me domain, get, base URL, all these things. But this service doesn't takes the whole URL. It just asks you the path. Why? Because if I go to this get function, okay, it's taking a URL which is here in the request. So what it is doing is it knows the domain where it has to make a request. In that domain, it adds the API also. It just asks you what is the variable thing, because all the APIs will have the domain name same only, right? Only the path will changes. So here in this place, I'll not send anything up to here. So let me run this once again and see what happens this time. You see data coming. Now let's go to console. Okay, it says promises, right? It doesn't print the data, but it's fine. uh, at least we can see in the network call that we are getting the data. Am I right? Okay. So we'll do one thing here. Let's say okay, so let data is equal to whatever it is returning, and let's print this data over here and then return this data. So now if I go back in the console, refresh this page, you see this data printing, and this is what we wanted. It's a JSON data. Now think of it and tell me if I want the name of the user here from this is the whole data I'm getting. I just want the name. So, and I want to set that name in this. So can you tell me how should I write it over here? Perfect. Set name data dot perfect. And I should use optional chaining. Perfect. Let me remove this console log from here because it's already getting printed while I call this here, right? So you see this name now, which is coming from the API. Am I right? My API also brings few data, which is, let me show you here. Let me not print this from here. Console.log data. So it's actually gives few more things which we required in the profile page. Something like avatar. You see this link? If I take this link, let me go to network tab. If you take this link and open it somewhere, you will see a profile page. This I want to display, right? So you all know about the image tag, right? So I can put here one image, img, yes. And here in the source, I can give that value. Am I right? But think of it, this data, I cannot access it over here, right? So instead of creating name, profile picture, and everything other, I can also keep one variable just as user, right? Which is a JSON data. Set user is equal to use state. Keep it initially null or undefined or a empty object. Am I right? This user is going to have multiple data. Let's say source is equal to, if I have to use JavaScript, I have to use curly bracket. So here, can I say user dot avatar? Perfect. Okay, let's see. Set. Oh, my bad. So here, when I come, I'll say set user and give this data. Perfect. Now, when use state variable change, it re-renders, right? So when I come over here, image is a void element tag and must neither have children nor use. इसका children नहीं रह सकते. Like it shouldn't have a child, so it's not allowing us to put a extra tag. Now you see, we got our image as well, right? There are a few other things like ID, role, name, email, those things. We'll come back to this. In meanwhile, let's discuss about a flexible component, which is maintain. So maintain is a collection of UI components. And as we are writing component, we can use the component which maintain has written. And maintain components are responsive. Okay. So here I'll just go to get started. Here there are many types of components maintain has. Like there are hooks, there are core, there are forms, dates, charts, many things. Generally, we only use hooks and core. So what I'll do is these two are selected. You can select more as per your need. And here is a command npm install. Copy this. Just go back to your project and install this. Okay, with sudo. Once this is installed, to use this, you have to wrap your app with maintain provider. Okay, so here you will see this line of code, which is already written here. It says there is maintain provider. You have to wrap your whole app or wherever you want to use it, that should be wrapped with this. Okay, so I'll simply take this line of code, go to the highest level component I have, which is app.js. Or before this, there is main.jsx also. Here I'll wrap it, which is already wrapped. What I'm saying is app is the final one, final component. This app is wrapped with maintain, right? So anywhere inside this component, you will be able to use maintain component, right? One more thing here is you have to also import the CSS of maintain, which is this line of code, which I have written over here, maintain core styles.css. Now let's see how easy it will be to use maintain. You will be amazed to see how we can style our component very easily. Okay. So let's say I want to write a text. I'll just go here, write text text, and here there are different types of text. Let's say you want to write it as a capital letter. So here is an example for this. I'll just pick it, come back to our place. Let me remove everything for now. And I'll say text. Here, instead of this, I want to show my name. So can I write it something like name colon? How should I get my name? User dot name. Perfect. Optional chaining always. Save this. Let's go back and see our page. Okay, one more thing. You need to import this text. So don't forget to import this. Okay. Whichever component you use, you need to update, import it. Like we create a component, wherever we have to use it, we import it. So this should be also imported. Perfect. You see the name coming. Now let's say I want to use a avatar. Okay. So I'll go here, just search for avatar. You get a component for that, right? So there are different type of avatars available here. Like how you want it to place, you can choose based on your. You can also style it. Like let's say I want it to be light. I want the radius to be more. I want the size to be more. I want this color, right? Let me just pick this component as it is. I'll go to the profile page, and here I'll be placing this avatar. Right now, I haven't given a source to this avatar. Okay. That is why it will display the empty. But remember to import it. Once again, I'll go back to this place. You see this? Now you would be thinking like this avatar is on the left. I have to write a CSS to bring it in the center, correct? But you don't have to do that. go here and search for center. There is a component for center also. Anything you place in between the center, it will be placed in center. So let me quickly write this. I'll be writing center and the whole thing I'll wrap over here. Now let's come back. You see this coming in center? Now the thing is we want it to be one, yeah, we want it to be vertically, right? So there is something called as stack. Like it will help you to make it center, flex and flex. Many things are there. Okay. So we want it to be in the stack. So I'll take a stack and wrap these things with a stack. Save it. Now let's come back to this. You see this up and down. Perfect. But now I want this profile to show my profile image. So can you tell me quickly what should I change? Source. This should be replaced with user dot avatar. Perfect. You can put more, like there are more customizations here. Like here you see in center, there are something called as props, like inline boolean, children. There are a few more customizations which you can add over here. But anyway, I'll leave up to you to explore that. But do you see that we can build this page easily? Yes, like in text, there are different type of text. Like if I write here text, you can make your text large, you can change the color of it, you can make it bold. There are many types of properties. Like let me say I want my text to be in color red. I'll just write C. And if I come back here, it's, if I want to make it bold, I'll just write B. Or, I'm not sure. I can check it from here. So bold is, okay, this one. Like you have to give a font weight to make it bold. Now it makes it Maintain makes it very easy for you to use components. And these are responsive. Like I have used a navbar which is there in Maintain. And if I, let's say, make my screen small, you see here, it's changing to menu. And if I make it larger, then it expands, right? Okay. But my goal here was to teach you two things. One was use state, use effect. These are the hooks. Okay. So I'm also writing it over here. Use, oh, use state, use effect. These are the hooks. There are more hooks which will be seen, but these are two. Second thing is how to make an API call. Right now we made a get API call, so it was easy. When we make a post API call, we'll have to pass some payload, okay, which in return will give us some response. So that time, the type of the API call should be post, patch, put, something like that. So we are concluding three things. One is functional component, JSX. Second is hooks, and third is API calls, right? Okay. Now, let's discuss something very important, which is called as routers. Okay. In React, understand one thing, like you have seen me wrapping this whole project with maintain provider, right? Similarly, this project is wrapped with few more things you can see. Google Auth provider. It's like if you want to access its functionality anywhere inside your application, you will have to wrap it. Similarly, if you want to provide routing to your application, you will have to wrap it with the router provider. So there is something called as React Router DOM. This will help you to React Router DOM. This is going to help you to do routing in your project. Any npm package you want to search, you just write npm, and even you don't remember the exact name, you just write it and you will get the suggestion. So this is the one which we are going to use to do routing. Routing is nothing but if the path changes, you want to change your page. Like in this application, or let's say this application, when you click on this, you see page changing. This is called as routing. Okay, it's simple. Let me tell you quickly. To use this, here you will see React Router DOM someplace. Do you see? Okay, not here, over here. React Router DOM. Now there are three things over here. Routes, route, and router. Now don't get confused with this router. This is a name for browser router. You can just write, instead of router, you write a browser router. That should work well. Got my point? So one more syntax. If you want to give a different name to destructured name, you can give it as some name, right? Alias. Yeah. Now, wherever you want to use routing, you have to wrap that component with browser router. Okay. So we'll be discussing into detail about routing. So first step here, to wrap your app with browser router. Okay. Second thing is, wherever you want to put these conditions, like if path matches, this is the component I want to display. Like we use switch, right? This is similar to switch, you can say. You have to use routes, and inside that you have to place routes and route. In route, it takes two things. One is path and one is a component. Okay, so I just showed you that I created a route. In this route, I kept a path as profile and the element as the component. So this will be shown when the path in the URL has profile, right? Can you put this somewhere else also? Yes, you can put this somewhere else also. Like let's say I want to put more routing, next nested routing in, let's say, this profile page. Can I put it over here? Yes, you can put more routing inside this. Because our app is wrapped with browser router, you can use this routes anywhere you possible, right? Okay. So whenever the URL will change, like you don't only have to click on this to browse. If I here type profile and hit enter, the page will change, because what is happening is it will check the URL. Router will always check the URL. If the path matches, it will display whatever content is there in that route. Rest will be ignored, right? So, okay, let's take a small break. Okay, so far we have seen JSX component, routing, maintain components, which we'll use to basically get rid of styling because it is already responsive. And we have also seen few of the hooks, right? So this is good enough to get started. We will be building first this page, which is a profile page. This is one page we'll be building. Next, we'll go to sort in URL and we'll build this page. So these are the two pages. Take it as a task, or we'll be building it together. And the third page, which is a history page, all the URLs you have created, this will be a task for you to do at the home. Okay, so let's get started by building a profile page. So what I'll be doing is, I was showing you over here. Let me delete all the things which I have created so far. So I'll be deleting this. Yeah, this is something which we had earlier. So yeah, I hope up to this, your application is already up and running, right? So I have a question here. Let's say if I have to make a profile page, let's first focus in profile page. Like, can you tell me what things we'll have to require? Like, let's first write all the steps. Okay. Make a profile page functional. So tell me what things we'll have to change into our application. Go to page, create a user component. So yeah, we'll have to create a profile component. Perfect. This is one thing. What else? Make an API call. Okay, make an API call to bring user details. Okay, perfect. Render the data. User. We have to. Here we will be using use effect to make API call and use state to store user details, right? One thing we are missing. Think of it. What about router? Router that we do in correct. So we have to make one more change, which is add one more route with path as /profile and element as profile. Right? In navbar, already profile path is added. So if I go to my, let's say, let me close this. This is not needed. If I go here, you can see that when I click on profile, it actually takes you to the profile page, but there is nothing here as there is no component in the routes. So let's go step by step. Okay. Let's make this change first, which is adding a route. But before that, if we have to add a route, we need a component, right? To place it at the element, right? So let's make this first, which is create a profile component. Okay. I'll tell you one thing. You can use this. There is something called as ES7. This extension. If you install this extension, you will most of your lines of code this extension can write. So this is the extension ES7. Let me write use session ES7. Yeah. Yeah. I already have this installed. Let me show you how it works to speed up how to create components. So should I create a component in pages or in component? Profile. Pages, because it is a page. So in pages, I'll create one folder, let's say user. Inside this, I'll create a component profile.jsx. Now see the magic here. If I write RFC, React functional component, hit enter, automatically a function comes. This is because of that ES7 extension in Visual Studio Code. So I don't have to write it from the scratch, right? So my component is ready. Okay, it's empty. That's okay, but at least it is ready, right? Now can I change in my router? Yes. So here I have to add one more route where the path is going to be slash profile, and my element is going to be profile page. Perfect. So there is some mistake. Okay, equal to that. And this should be imported. Perfect. Can you do this much? And basically, when you click on this profile page, it should take you to the profile page. So you can just verify it by writing something here, like I am in profile page, something like this. Create a component and put it in the router. Done. There is a shortcut to format the file. What you can do is in Visual Studio Code, you select what you want to format, K and F. KF. So in Mac, to format a file, select the text and CMD K plus F. It is good also if you just change here, right? If you just write slash profile and if it takes you even without routing, that is also more than enough. Okay. So we are done with two things, creating a component. We are done with browser. Yeah. So number one is done. 5 is already done for us. 4 is also done. So now we are left with 2 and 3. Am I right? Okay. So I already told you about a class which we have in utility file. This has all the function post, get, delete, put, patch, which uses Axios to make an API call. And I already told you how it makes an API call. You just give a path, it will make an API call and give you back the data. Okay, great. So let's come to the profile page. One step at a time. If we make an API call, it will give us back the data. So we should store it. And when that data comes, I should re-render my page. So it should be of type use state, right? So I'll be taking one variable, which is user. This is of type use state. And I've already told you that use state is an array which has two values, which we are destructuring as user and set user. So the default value should null. I mean, empty object. Now, to make an API call, we will use our class service, right? So simple thing I'll do here is import service. And next I need to create an object so that I can use the methods of that. So I'll be saying const service. You can give any name to the object as per your requirement. So new service, right? Now we are good to make an API call. To make an API call, we don't want our component to make a API call again and again because the data of the user is same, right? Yes. So what we'll be doing is we want it to run only once. So we are going to use the hook, which is use effect. And if we want the use effect to run only once, then what should we do? Empty. In the dependency, the list should be empty, right? Okay. As we want to write our code which is clear, I can actually make a direct call over here, but we'll write a function which will basically make an API call and give us the data, right? So let's do one thing. Let's make a function get user details. Yeah. As I told you, whenever we make an HTTP or a network call, we have to place it in try catch. So we'll be writing try and catch. Okay. Now here we need to make an API call. We will have to await that line. In order to await the line, we'll have to make a function as ushing. Perfect. All good. Now finally, we'll say let response is equal to await. And how should I call this? Services dot get. And I don't have to pass the whole URL as I have showed you, like we just need to pass the last part, which is the variable path, because rest of things will be taken automatically, domain/API. Okay, perfect. So here I should just write, I have already given you an API here, right? This is the API. So up to API is fine. At last we have user/me. So user/me. Perfect. This is going to give you a response. This response you are going to return. We can also log this just to see console.log response. Now think of it. Do we actually need to return the data? We can just set it in the user, right? That's all. So I don't need an return type over here. I'll just set the response. So how should I set the response? Set user is equal to response. But as this is a function, we'll have to make an call. So I'll just call it from here. And as we know, there is no dependency. This will only get called when this component is mounted on mount, right? So let's see if we are getting the data. So I'll inspect this page, go to network tab, and once again run this. And here I see that I have received the response in console. If I see, it's also getting printed. If you have any error, you can just let me know.
Getting the entire HTML.
HTML, okay.
In response, I'm getting HTML.
Okay, so we are able to get the data, right? So now if we get back to our checklist, we have made the API call and even this step is completed. So now only we are left with, we have used use state and use effect also. So all things are done. Now the final thing is JSX and styling. You can say UI and styling. This is the only part. We just have to show it. We already have the data, right? Okay. So let's do it one by one. Before taking you over here, we want to make exact page which we see over here. You see it is in the center, right? For this, let me introduce you to few more things of the maintain, which is called as container. So if you look at the container, sometime you see the pages that there is both side margin left, right? Sometimes you don't see any margin left. Sometimes medium margins are there. So there are three types of components generally we use, which is small, large, and medium. Okay. So here you see this is default container, this is extra small, and 480 pixel container, something like this. Okay. So we will be taking one container which will be of type small. Here it is extra small, but we don't want it to be very small. We'll just be taking small container. So I'm just picking this as it is. There are three containers. I'm just picking one of it. Go back to the profile page. Here I'll replace this div completely with container, but import this container, okay, from maintain core. Let's save it, come back to our profile page. Demo prop. Demo props is not defined. Okay, I'm passing here few things, right? I'll let me remove those things. Just keep it simple. So you see X container over here, right? Let's do one thing. Let's make it small, SM. So there will be some parameters. Let me just tell you about it. LG is large, MD medium, small, XL extra large, XS extra small. Okay, let's keep it small. Anything we'll write, we'll keep it inside this so that it is already aligned. Now, the second thing is we want everything to come into stack, like one below another, right? Like if you see here, this is in bottom of the of that, this is in the bottom of the above, user ID is in the bottom of that. So we want everything to come one above another or one below another, right? Something like that. So for that, we will be using stack. Perfect. So I'll just take a stack here and say stack. Okay. Now tell me one by one all the things which we need. We need a avatar, right? So AVA avatar, and we can self close it because we don't want to place anything inside that, right? But here something is called as source. So let's keep our source is equal to user dot, sorry, hold on. User dot avatar. Am I right? Let's go back and see how it's looking. Okay, one thing we never forget is we have to import these things. Otherwise it will throw error. Okay, that is already there. A should be capital, right? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so avatar comes as expected round, but the thing is it is not in the middle. Okay, we'll style that all things later on, but let's keep what things we need uh, so far. Okay, so the next thing we need is after the avatar, next we need is name. So for name, what should be a good component? Text. And here I can just write user dot name. After name, let's just look quickly. We need an email. So email should also be a text, right? Then there is something called as user ID, which should also be a text, and this should be also a text. So I can just copy this 4 times and change this to email. Then next is ID, and next is okay. We can take a look at this updated at or created at, whatever we want to show. So let's say this is updated at, then we have underscore ID, we have email. Perfect.
Option.
We should put a optional chaining. We shouldn't forget about that. So basic page is ready. Now, if I want to make it in the center, what should I do?
Center.
We should use a center. So I'll place this all things in a center. Import it always. Oh, so
Center can be stack.
something we have.
Can be
Stack should be in center or center should be in stack. Yeah. So I'll just move it above. Otherwise, stack will think that center is one single element, right? So it will keep in one place. Perfect. Okay. Now we can give some margins and paddings to it. I'll tell you how to give it. So this is a stack. I want this complete stack to have some margins in it. So you can just keep M. M is a margin all the side. If you want to give it vertically, you have to say Y. If you have to say horizontally, you will say X. Again, same thing. What you have to do is here you have to give medium, large, extra large, whatever you want to be. Let's say I want to place extra large. Save it. You see a margin coming in the top as well as the bottom, but we can't see it right now, right? So similar to this, let's say I want to only give a margin in top, then I'll be writing empty. If bottom, then B. If left, then L. If right, then R. Simple to understand. Same thing with M, you can replace M with P, which is padding. Padding is inside, margin is outside, right? Okay. Now, I'll not go in detail about like how to make this image large, how to change this text, because all these things are very easy and you can check it over here. Like there are many things about it. Text. Like if you go to text, you'll see here large text, bold text. Like I was displaying a name. Here I was saying user ID, then I was displaying the user ID, right? So you can make it easily. Like here, let's say I just have to write user ID. give a colon, and then if I show it, it will be something like this. I want to make this bold, so I'll be using another text over here just for it, just for the user ID. And we know how to make a text bold. We can use FW, which is font weight, and here you can give something like 700. Okay, it's coming below, but the other way, if you try, it will come fine. But these things I'll let you play with, because there are other things also which we have to discuss. But at least up to here, I want you all to make it. So do it quickly. You should see something like this. One more thing I have done. We were keeping a center, right? If we can get rid of center, what we can do is in stack itself, we can put align center. You can just see in that component props. Okay, so we have built this simple page, which is profile. Now we have to build the page, which is where we can shorten the URL. Okay, so I'll go to shorten URL, this place, and let's try to write down first step. First, visualize what things we need in that page, right? So this page, which is shorten URL. Okay. First change we'll have to make is in nav bar, we should give an option to go to that page. Am I right? So add URL in nav bar. That is first thing. Can you identify a few more changes? Like we did for profile page. Think of it like what things we have to do here. One more route, one more component. Am I right? So add, okay, create new page, which is basically a component URL shortener. Add URL shortener to the route by creating new route, right? Where basically path is going to be, if I see over here, you see the path is URL shortener, and element is going to be URL shortener, right? Now here, when I give a long URL, let me try it and show it to you. So I'm taking this page, going over here, placing in long URL this value. Let me inspect this page and click on generate a shorten URL. Now some API call was made, right? Let me capture this API call which was made. Can you tell me the type of this API call? It is post. We can clearly see it over here, right? It's a post type. So this is a post call. Now we have to see in post what was the payload we sent. Okay, so this is the payload which we sent. So you can think of this as it's a request. Request body is something this. And we have to see what is the response body. So this is the response. Perfect. So we have a API call. So here also we'll have to use hooks to manage side effects and state of the. Okay. So here there are two things actually. We'll divide this into two parts. If you see here, when we send an API request and get back the value, we are no longer showing the form, right? So we'll have to do conditional rendering. If we have a response, then show this. If you do not have a response, then show the other one. So we'll break it down into two components. One to get an input, second to show the output, right? Here you can generate new URL anytime. Okay. So let's go one by one at a time. So let's first create a component. Now, sorry, page. So I'll be going to page. In page, I'll be creating one, let's say a folder, which is, let's say, URL. Inside this URL, I'll be creating one file, which is URL shortener .jsx. And here, if I write RFC, it will give me the component for that. Perfect. Now this component I should take it to the app.js file and put one more element over here. One more route basically with path is equal to URL slash. I have already written the path here. So let me just take it. And the element is going to be URL shortener. Now, this time we'll have to make one more change. In our app, we don't see URL shortener button over here, right? So we'll have to make that change in the navbar. So I'll go to navbar, which is in the component. Here, you will see one array. I just have to change this array, that's all. I'll add one more value here, which will be 2. 2 should match our route path. We wrote it as URL slash shortener, and label we want to give what you want to display, that is the label. That's all. If you add this, it should start displaying over here. And if you click this, you see that URL changing. Right? So do up to here. Okay. So what I have done is there is a component called as URL shortener, and that is what getting displayed when we click on URL shortener. Just to verify it, I'll write something. Uh, this is URL shortener page. And if I go back here, if I see this, everything routing is working perfectly. Let's now go step by step. So we'll have to break down this into our mind. There are two things. Once we want to take input, once we want to show output, right? Can we manage this with one single Boolean variable? Yes, right? So also we can say when we have a data, we'll show the output. If we don't have the data, we'll show the input, right? So what I'll be doing here is I'll take one response, let's say const response set response. This is of type use state variable. Initially nothing is there. Can I use this to do conditional rendering? If response is there, show something else. If not, then show something else. We can do it. So what I am writing over here, look at it. It is a new thing which we are learning. So I'll put a JavaScript here. To use JavaScript, I'll have to use curly bracket. Here I'll say response with question mark. This means that if response is there, this will get evaluated to true. So if it is true, so this component, else so the other component. Or you can say it as JSX. So see here how it will work. If I write here, let's say Kaushik, and here if I write Vishal. Okay. When response is there, it will show Kaushik. When response is not there, it will show Vishal. Why? Because this is a ternary operator, simple as JavaScript. But it what this ternary operator is returning is a JSX, right? So let me go here. It's showing Kaushik. Why? Because we made a small mistake. It's an empty object, but object is there, right? So I should keep it as null. Perfect. Now if I see, it shows Vishal. Can we change this to components? Yes. So I have created two component here in the component inside URL. I created a folder URL. Inside this URL input.jsx, URL output.jsx. Okay. So let me just create this component quickly. Input and output. How smartly I'll be using this is here we want output when response is there. Am I right? So I should replace the first part with this component, right? And the second part I should replace with URL input. Perfect. Now, if I go here, you see it is showing input, means it is ready to take input. But if response is there, then it will show output. So you saw like how we broke down this into multiple components, right? Okay, perfect. So we need to take input from the user, right? So we'll have to use input tags of HTML, something like that. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's take input. To take input, what we will be doing is those inputs will be writing in the URL.input. Okay, so if we go to maintain and search your text input, you will get a component text input. Okay, which is a simple input component. I'll just take it. How many inputs we want over here? 1, 2, 3, 4. And only one is mandatory, others are not mandatory, right? So I'll come back here and replace this with, let's say, input file. So I'll replace these labels one by one. Okay. So let me copy it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I go back now, here I should see 4 input. Am I right? Now I need one button also with this, right? So if I go to maintain and check for button, you get a button also. You can style it. You can, if you want it light, you want it default, you want it to be, yeah, transparent. You, all things you can define over here, what color you need. So let me take a simple button for now. Bring it over here. But make sure you import all these things, otherwise it will throw error, right? Now let's come over here and see. So we have a button as well now, which is good. Okay, now a new thing which we are going to learn is events. Because we will be typing, we'll be clicking. So these are events. In profile page, we were doing nothing. It just makes a API call, shows you the data, right? So there are two types of events we will be learning. One is on click, another one is on change. Now think and tell me, on change, will you get it in button or will you get it in input? Input, perfect. And on click, you will get in input or button? Button. Basically, both you can get in both, but what makes more sense, we should go with that, right? So in button, there is an event called as on click. What this takes is a function, and it will run a function when you click on this button. So let me write a function here. Let me write an arrow function, okay? So don't get confused with this because I have told you it's an arrow function it is going to take. I'll say console.log clicked. Okay. Let me go here, inspect this page and see if it is working or not. I'll click on this page. You see here, click incrementing its number, right? Perfect. Next is on change. So let's place on change over here. This will take a function which it will run when there is any change in this input. So let me write here console.log. But here we have an input, right? So it will give you that input. Let me print that input over here. So I'm going back over here and let me write something here. You see something getting printed? Okay. Our main focus is to get this data, right? So what I'll be doing here is, let me look where I can find this data. Okay. So here something is target. Can you see target? If I click on the target, there is something called as value. Is it same what I have written here? Yes. So from here, if I have to get this value, I have to say e dot target dot value, right? So let me now change this to e dot target dot value. Now if I start typing something, only what I am typing is getting printed. Perfect. Okay. So to manage these all things, what we will be doing is we'll keep one state, but we'll not keep that state over here. We'll keep that state in the root. Why? Because if I keep it here, it's a child component. It will not be able to pass that data to the parent, but parent can pass a data to child. So that is called as props. props. Okay, so event handling we saw on change in text input and on click in button. Okay, now props. So let me go to the parent component here, and here I'll be taking input, set input, use state, and let me keep it empty for now. Okay, so here we are going to place all of our input. So we have a response, we have a input. Now we have placed a button in the child component, right? But when we click that child component, it should send the data and bring the data. If that component sends the data and brings the data, will we get the data over here? No, right? We want that to happen over here, correct? So to manage this, can you think of, there are different ways we can do that.
If we use the set input function there,
Yeah,
here we can use input.
correct.
I can think of this input URL input. We can have a function which will read all the input, and on click will send will return it.
Yes,
And
but
that data we can follow over here.
yes. So now we'll be using props. What I'll be doing is in this URL input, I can pass something because it's a function, right? I can pass it over here. So what I will be doing is I'll be passing this set response. This is a function which sets the data, right? So here I'm saying set response is equal to colon set response. This I can get in that component, which is, okay, my bad. This should be sent over input. Okay, so I'll go to this URL input, and here I can write props. Let me just print this and show you what is there. Okay, so look at it carefully. Do you see set response? And it shows it is a function. So can I use it there? Yes. So I will make a API call there and set my response on a button click. Perfect. So now think of it. This input which we have declared over here, do we need this input over here? No, doesn't make any sense. So I'll take this and put it over here. Got it? Okay. Now our focus is to keep this these values here, which I have written here. In response, I want these values: custom URL, expiry at, original URL, and title, right? So what I'll be doing here is, let me copy these things one by one. First, let's keep for custom URL, right? Can I say here, this is a object, empty object. I want to add one key to that. So can I say set input? Look at it carefully. We have used this in morning. I'll spread what values we already have, right? So input. And in this, I'll add a new key, which is custom URL, and the value is e.target.value. But the thing is, will it work if custom URL is already here? That is the question. So we can check it by writing it here, console log. Anything change, it will get printed. So let's quickly see. use state is not defined here. Perfect. So I'm writing anything. You see that getting added here. With custom URL, we have other things also. Expiry date. So this the last input. Let's keep the type of this input as date. Type is equal to, here you can say date, and if you come back over here and see, it will change to this. Very easy, right? So what should I write here? Same similar thing. I'll copy this part on change and place it over here, but this time I'll not say custom URL, I'll say expiry date. Perfect. So I'll just pick this. Okay, this is not a custom URL, my bad, it should be original URL, right?
Labels in the AD.
Label. Label will change, right? So let me take the second one as title. So I'll change this to title, and the third one, what is left? Custom URL. So here we should keep a custom URL. So I'll once again take this value and put a custom URL here. Let me format it to make it easier. Console log, we don't actually need these things now. Now let's see if we add these values, are these getting added? Label. Yes. If I give a expiry time, is the expiry time getting added? Perfect. So this we can send, which is good. Now UI styling, I'll tell you a few things quickly. You have to make more changes on that. So we are using text input, right? Here you will see many things like let's say you want it to be required, right? So I can just write here required, and if I go back and see over here, you see a asterisk over here, which itself means it is required. Labels you can change by yourself, it's not a big deal. You can put these all things inside a container where size is basically, let's say, extra small. It's important. So you see how styling quickly changes, right? But main thing here, our goal is to make an API call, get back the response. When I get back the response, I'll use this props dot set response to set the value there. Once I set the value, automatically this response will get a value, and that I'll pass it in the URL output and show it in the URL output. So here I'll be passing this response. Let's say response is equal to response. Similarly, you can pass more details. Here you can pass this as well, which is set response. You can pass more data, whatever you need. So it's a function, you can send the detail and get it over that component. Okay, so let's quickly go and make an API call over here. Now the thing is, we want to make an API call on click of a button, but this button should be disabled until unless we have a original URL with us, right? So can I write it something like this? In button, actually there is something called as disabled, and you can give a Boolean value to this. Like if you give true, it will be disabled. If you give false, it will not be disabled, right? So can I say here, if in my input, original URL is empty, then I should disable it. So I'll negate this value. If it is true, I'll make it false. If it is false, I'll make it true. Okay. So let's go back. It should get disabled, right?
Give you conditional, right?
Like this.
No, that if the question mark is there, I don't think it will give anything.
It will give what we say, undefined, no? Or let's do it like this. We'll say this is equal to empty or undefined. Disabled. So because it is undefined, it is disabled. But once I write something here in the original URL, it should get enabled. So input dot original URL input dot original URL Okay, fine. I can do one thing. See, if this expression results into undefined or false, something like that. So I'll say true, else false.
If it is there, we should not.
If I remove this, I write this, perfect. These labels you can change by yourself, right? You can put optional other things also over here. Okay, so this is original URL. Here it's title. Here it's custom URL. And this is expiry date. You also have to change the placeholder. But it's fine. We can make those changes, not a difficult part, right? We have to make a API call to this API, passing these data, which is basically input. So can you tell me what should be our path?
Yes.
Only yes, not slash also, because last time we saw that if we take places slash, it adds one more slash, right? Okay. So help me to write this, which is a function which will make an API call and return back you the response, or not return, set the response over this props dot set response. So function get short URL. When I call this, okay, I'll have to use service now. So import service, and then you have to create an object out of it. So service is equal to new service is equal to new service, and you will be saying here await, and this function should be of type string. It should be in try catch block. So if there is any error, don't completely stop the page, but just log it, right? Okay. So as you said, await services dot post. Now this will take two things. One is the path and other is what you want to send. So I want to send this input, and in return it will give you some data. Perfect. So let's log this data and also set it. This is what we passed. So here we'll say set props dot set response, and we'll pass this data. Perfect. But when do we want to call this? On click. So here I have a one function, right, which will run. Here I'll be calling this. So let's see if it works or not. What I'm going to do is, in original URL, let me place this maintain URL. Okay. And inspect this page and click on this button. It's fine. Maybe our service is down. This is, can just refresh this page. It can come up. But meanwhile, just look at this. What we sent. Did we send the correct payload? Okay, not here. Yeah.
Custom URL SDF.
I think it did not
Refresh.
change the last one.
Okay, got it. Anyway, but if we have the original URL, we should get back the response, right? So maybe this will get terminated in some time. Let's see if this comes up quickly.
ये कितना देर में डाउन हो जाता है?
If you don't use it for some time, it will go down. It's working perfectly. So let's go back here, and
Output okay.
you see that we got output. That is why it is showing output. We have put the conditional rendering. Now here we have a sort URL, sort code. What you have to do is, in this, if we just write API/s/this, no, 1 second. Sorry, my bad. We are making a call to which server? This server, right? So in this server, if I give this code s/sdf, okay, let me try. Redirect URL should be there, which I can get from here. Copy this link. So basically in this, we have to replace this last part. Okay. So we got here responses STFA, and if we hit this, you see it is taking to maintain, right? So now I can say there is one more API, which is redirect API. So our redirect API is something like API/s/ sort code, and it's a get call, right? Okay. We already have the response. That is why it is showing output, right? So in response, can we show this sort code? Can we show the other things here? Yes, very easily. So let me just show the sort code for now. We have already passed our response over here in the props. So can I get it over here? Yes. Let me use center tag. And here I'll say props dot sort code, and here I'll put the props.
Props dot response dot sort.
Okay, I think we messed up with that, but anyway. Props dot
response dot sort.
respons dot sort code. Okay, anyway, we can create new also, doesn't matter. So one thing here is, when we are showing this, we should be able to clear this response, because only if we clear the response, then we'll be able to make a new call, right? Okay, so it will be a lot. I'll be taking a pause over here, and then we'll continue once you are done up to here, right? So let's stop at this place.